Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about feature definition. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, I have to write features before I fully understand the requirements. How can I explain to my manager that who thinks that this is impossible and crazy? Well, I'm not really sure what this means, but it sounds to me like you're trying to explain that you have to know the requirements before you can write features or something like that to your manager. And I would agree, to a certain point it seems important to know the requirements, but I would like to say as well that I've worked with quite a lot of software developers who, I don't know what to call them. I suppose the closest thing that I can say is that they have a very robotic mindset to the development process, where basically their first thought is, give me a bullet point list of the tasks that I have to execute on, basically like a computer. Like, I want to know, first I need to do that, then I need to do that, and you have to break things down to that granular level. And these are the sort of people I usually say they can only survive in a highly controlled corporate environment and basically not function outside of that environment. Anything that has to do with like cross-functional teams or taking a greater, like I'm not going to call them, well, I'm going to call them code monkeys. That's like, for me, that is code monkey behavior. Like, they have no ability whatsoever to function unless you break down every single thing that the feature is about to like deliverable small tasks that they can comprehend in isolation, because they can't think for themselves, basically they can't derive the things that they have to do based on a loose specification. And that's the thing that is usually the most common. I would say that it's probably the number one thing that almost every single software team can improve in, and every single product owner and manager, and that is to make sure that people understand the damn feature card or story card or whatever you're using for your boards and so forth. Because I see it all the time, it's like, it is the norm. I won't even go as far as to say that it's a problem. I will say that this is how it on average works. There is a obscure title for what the feature is about. If there is a description, it's usually a one-liner or something really, really vague, completely unthought of, and the acceptance criteria is always empty. That's practically how it works, at least in Azure DevOps and in Jira and in what else have I been using? Like, basically all of them. Like, I've never seen anything other than it. And then of course you have the other extreme, which are the people who think, as I said, they you need to have a really, really good description, and you need to have acceptance criteria, and they try to make rules for basically, I hate these people as well. These are the people who I argue they are the people who understand that it is important to perform a ritual. They understand that that is important, but they don't understand that the reason why it's important. So what they will do is that they will add a title that nobody understands, they will add a description that nobody understands, and then they will have acceptance criteria that also nobody understands. Success, you have filled in all the boxes, but you missed the mark. Nobody understands what this means. And so what I usually say is that the approach that I try with my teams is that I try to think about feature requirements, specifications, and things like that a little bit like sculpting or something similar, where you might have a really big piece of rock or clay or something like that, and that is the first version of your feature. And then the process of getting it out the door is a process of refinement of the requirements. And that process cannot be rushed. It's going to happen whether you like it. Like, it's going to happen in a few ways. As I said, what happens with this is usually that you basically, as I said, you take the whole piece of clay, put it in the lap of a software developer, and the software developer has basically no idea what's going to happen, and then you start putting pressure, and you have to deliver. And so what they have to do is to go on a journey of discovery and like sort of sculpt out something that looks kind of weird in order to get something out the door. And then when it gets to the customer, it's not looking the way they want it to look. The sculpture is all weird, or like they're like everything, or there's in our case, there's bugs in the systems. There's all kinds of things that are going wrong now because the software developer did not understand what the customer needed. They got a card that said do this, and their interpretation of that card was wrong. And so how do you deal with this? Because the other extreme, as I said, is that you spend and you do the waterfall thing. Like you spend hours and hours and hours, tons and tons of time of like defining every little micro detail, and by the time they get and pick up the card, they still don't remember, or like they still don't know what it means, and they don't remember things like that, and they then do their sculpting and something goes out the door, and nobody know again, like they really don't get it right. It's lots of bugs, lots of issues, and so forth. So the approach I usually use is that I try to measure. I have said this to my coworkers a few times. I said the way that you measure how likely that this story is going to succeed is in how fast can you get the thing that your customers and your stakeholders and so forth are saying onto a story card. If you can't define what they want on a story card together with them, you are not ready to do this. There is no way for you to do it. And so the exercises I usually use is very simple. I'll start by saying to everybody, all right, we're going to ship a feature. And what usually happens is they dump a bunch of information on me with like, oh, we have these technical presentations, we have this and that and so forth. And I go, yeah, awesome. How do we describe the feature we're going to do? Can you give me a title? And then we usually define some type of title. And then I go, okay, description. What do we think needs to happen in order to deliver this thing? And then we write that down. And then I go to the acceptance criteria. And here is my secret sauce. This is just for you, so don't tell anybody. I create a bullet point list. Acceptance criteria 1. What is the acceptance criteria? Number 1. And everybody looks at me like they don't understand. What do you like? Okay, yeah, it has to be able to do this thing in a performant way. And I go, okay, how do you measure that? How do you check if that is actually delivered? And they go, oh, I don't know. Like, maybe if we're going to build a website, so, and then this is how I start them off. There should be a website at www something 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 / what is the URL name? Something something. Okay, yeah, that's the first thing. When you go there, the page should load in at least 2 seconds. Does that sound good? Yeah? Okay, cool. And then you continue. You go step by step, because basically what I treat the acceptance criteria as is just a checklist of things that will be evaluated, whether or not that is happening once we're done. And that process, just lining out, this is the stuff that, for say a QA, the QAs loves this. They love this because that basically means that this is the stuff that they are going to check, or the product owner and so forth. It's just a step list. Go and make sure that that page is there. Go and make sure that that form is sending there, and go and check that if you submit that form, there's a page over there that has like the thing that you just sent. You just tell them the things that they're going to check to see if it's done correctly from their perspective, like from the interface perspective. And that process leads to that the software developer knows, okay, like you don't even have to say like that, you don't have to say more. This will be the benchmark, and this is usually the way that I tell software developers to write their tests. It's the same thing. Don't try to understand all the like every technical detail, because you're never going to get, you won't be able to get all that information out of your customers. You have to know what they want to happen once you're done, and then you have to derive the rest, because you can't ask them for highly specific details on every little thing. This process, just trying to step it through like that, is the best you're ever gonna get. For them, this is how they will check if you did a good job. The QAs will do the same thing, and then it's up to you and me to figure out if there are any unknowns in order for us to figure out how to make that thing happen. And that's the thing that I can't train software developers to do, which is the thing that I usually tell managers who put me in charge of various teams and say, oh, you have to make them work better and stuff like that. And I go, I can't. They're too stupid. And I go, well, what do you mean? Well, I'm saying that I cannot get the stakeholders to be more specific so that they fully understand what they're supposed to be doing, and they can't extrapolate what they need to do in order to ensure that the things that they are going to check whether or not it's working actually happens. They don't have the necessary skills to do that. But the people who really know this is all they need. They usually only need to know, all right, someone's going to check that there is something at that URL. Someone's going to check that this artboard looks the way that web page looks the way that this artboard does. You set the requirements. That's all you have to do. And you can, as I said, you can do this on your first meeting. You can do it on a second meeting, a third meeting. I usually do it on a weekly basis. What I basically do with every single one of my software team is that I define a feature on, let's say we start on day 1, and then I say, do you all feel like you understand how this is going to happen? Okay, cool. And then every week I go back and I say, all right, we go through if everybody just understands immediately, we just skip it. But and there is no extra word, and I just go, tell me what this card means. And I check with every software developer. Explain how we're going to do this. Oh, well, we're going to do A, we're going to do B. If there's any unclarities, we go back again and I go, okay, here are the steps that we're going to take in order to, okay, that's what they're going to check. How do we make that happen? Because just going over these steps, like the things that the people on the other side are going to check once you're done, should give you enough information, because the rest is kind of up to you to figure out as an engineer, okay, how do I make that happen? So what I want you to take away from this is that my suggestion to you is that think about feature requirements and like all that, like a sculpting process. You will get a lump of clay in your lap. And the first question you should ask is, okay, so how do I create a feature card or so forth where that I have an idea of what will be at this end? And if your customer says, oh, like they don't really know and stuff, like, okay, cool, you're going to get a lump of clay. Don't worry about it, because we have no acceptance criteria or anything like that. And then they immediately say, oh, well, yeah, but it should be sort of slender. Okay. You ask, so you basically tell them, okay, I'm going to write here, sort of slender. How slender? Do you roughly know? Oh, no, sort of. Okay, because once you can get them to just set the acceptance criteria, the things that they feel that they are going to check once they're done to validate if you actually delivered it. It's sort of, if you go to a pizzeria, your requirement is, hey, I ordered a calzone or like a, whatever, like a pizza. The person on the other, you don't know how they're going to do it, but you know that you're going to check if you got all the toppings. And they know that that's what you're going to check to determine if you have the right pizza or not. Same deal here. Do exactly the same thing. And if they are unspecific and so forth, don't worry about it. Don't get stressed about it. Just do whatever you think is right, and then say, I'm very sorry, because based on what we agreed, this is the best I could figure out based on what you told me to do. And sometimes, guys, you have stakeholders who really don't understand this. And as I've said, with the software developers, if they're too stupid to understand how to get to the state where they can verify their work, the same is for the stakeholder. If the stakeholder is too dumb to be able to tell you what they want, then there's not much more you can do. Have a great day.